All right, everyone. Well, I hope you guys are all having a great weekend. It's Sunday morning here. I'm recording this from Mexico, and I'll be trading here for the first part of the week, this coming week. My setup here, so in this episode, we're going to give you my game plan for the week ahead and my watch list for tomorrow, but I'll also talk a little bit about my traveling trading station because the setup that I have for this trip is a little different than what I've used on my last trips. I was told that coming into Mexico, you have to be careful with bringing multiple computers because they might take one away from you. Um, so you're only allowed to bring one computer and certain number of devices and stuff like that. I don't know why they have that rule, but or how much they're enforcing it, but I was told they're enforcing it more. So what I ended up doing was bringing my one laptop, which is a 17-inch Falcon laptop. This is my high-powered laptop that I've been using for a long time. And then I got a new 17-inch ultra thin Asus monitor. So you can see it here. It's got its little stand. So this is what it looks like. And this fits right in my carry-on. So this is a mirror basically of what you're seeing on the screen right now. And I only have one, which is a little less than what I typically would travel with, which is two monitors. So normally I have my laptop screen, and then I have monitor one and monitor two. For this trip, I've got laptop screen and just monitor one, which is fine, but it's going to be a little bit different from what I typically use. Since this is a shorter trip, I don't think it'll be a problem, but what it means is that I'm going to have to, uh, on my main window, my main laptop screen, I'll have to have my stocks that I'm watching, like sort of my watch, like side chart stocks, on that screen, but sort of tucked, tabbed out. So I'll pop it back in and pop it back out. So it's not perfect, but I think it'll be okay. And realistically, the way things have been this past week and a half, for the most part, it's like a stock hits the scanner. So all of a sudden, for instance, INDO hits the scanner. I pull it up, and boom, we've got a stock squeezing higher, and now that's the one I'm focusing on 100%. So maybe something else that I had been watching previously really is I almost don't need to watch it anymore. And that's because in a hot market, attention shifts very quickly. So when we think about this hot market right now, last week we had MNPR, which went up, it was like 1,000%. This is an incredible move. It didn't happen pre-market, um, so it happened during regular trading hours, which means there were a lot of halts. That does make it a little harder to trade. This same type of move pre-market would have been 1,000 times easier for me to trade because it wouldn't have gotten halted. It would squeeze up, you would buy the dips, on pullbacks and then ride the levels higher. Here, where it's halting and then gapping and then immediately halting again, it's just harder to manage risk because you can get caught in a halt down and it's just not as clean. So, in any case, this is a good sign for momentum that we had a stock that went from $4 to nearly $40 a share, just period. That's good. And then on Friday, we had UPXI. So UPXI ends up going from about $4 a share up to 16. So a nice 400% move on that one. That's great to see. So I was starting to wonder if momentum was cooling off because Monday and Tuesday, although they were good, they weren't, grand slam kind of days. We had had drug the week before, which went up, as you might recall, 2,000%. So that was our big mover from, you know, 2 weeks ago now. And that's what really ignited this current round of momentum when the stock went from $2 or $3 to over $60 a share. But then, 4 or 5 days later, we had seen moves, but nothing as big. And I thought, oh, maybe things are starting to cool off and I'm going to have to be a little more careful. And then MNPR. And then again, like right away, UPXI. So what that's telling me is that right now the market is still hot and primed for when something comes out with news that's good and the float is lower, when it has the right combination, these stocks can explode. So, as always, when I sit down and I look at a stock, I'm asking myself, and I can do this pretty much instantly, how closely does it meet my 5 pillars of stock selection? UPXi meets them all perfectly. You can click the link that'll be pinned to the top of the comments and in the description to download my 5 pillars of stock selection as a PDF, and then you can use that in your own trading as a resource. So UPXi meets it perfectly. ARRB, which is currently our second leading gapper, does not meet it. Now, it doesn't mean I wouldn't necessarily trade it. Sometimes I will trade stocks that don't perfectly meet those criteria, um, but generally speaking, I'd prefer not to. NWTN does not meet it. ITRM does not meet 5 pillars. BMTX, yes. FTEL, no. NCRA, close. It's on the cusp, but not perfectly. So if I pulled up this scanner tomorrow, if this is what the scan looked like in the morning, I would be 100% focusing on UPXI. Now, the only question, just because this stock meets all 5 criteria from a technical perspective, I can do that analysis without even looking at the chart because those 5 criteria are technical and they're based purely on the stock. So I think, as we know, trading is risky, and of course my results aren't typical. And one of the best ways to reduce risk is to make sure in the first place you're trading good quality stocks. If you're trading low quality stocks, that's going to be obviously a problem. Your results are going to be not as good because you're just trading a risky stock in the first place. So for me, for my strategy, I have to make sure I'm trading A quality stocks, which means I'm trading something that has the potential to go up 40, 50, or 100% in one day. That's that's how I'm going to make money. I'm not going to make money buying something at $5 and selling it at $5. I need to have that rate of change. So the first step, reviewing these stocks on the scanner, I usually do that from my phone before I've even gotten out of bed. I just check on my phone, I look at the scans, and I see, is there anything on here that looks good? If there is, then at that point, I pull up the chart. So let's say UPXI was looking great, and I was like, okay, from a technical perspective, just the stock itself looks awesome. I pull up the chart, and then in this case, this is where we'd have a problem, because I would say, oh, shoot, well, I missed the move, right? Maybe this had happened pre-market or after hours, and in any case, yes, it's still up over 100% at 681, but the high was 16. Now, I would say there's a possibility, depending on what this does pre-market tomorrow, pre-market, it could sell off more and then it's totally done. Or it could start to rally back up, or it could hold for a little bit, and it could give another move. Levels to watch would be probably a break of, well, certainly the highs. And then below that, we would look at this pivot right around here. So if we broke over the high of that pivot, 13.11, then we'd look for a move to 15, 16, and this would be another pivot right around VWAP. But currently it's way below those levels. So probably this would be no good. But if I pulled up the chart and it looked like this, that's all we had so far, then that's where I'm like, okay, the intraday chart looks good. It's spiking up. And at that point, I would say, what's the news catalyst? I would go to my news window. I would try to figure out what the news catalyst is. And see to take their, so the company is taking action against stock manipulation with fractional share roundup with reverse stock split. So I feel like that's a unusual headline, but okay, I'd look at more detail at that headline. And then I would take a look at the daily chart. So the daily chart's down here, and the question I'm asking myself is, does this stock have a recent reverse split? And it does. Recent reverse split is a multiplier factor. Anytime you have a stock that already meets 5 criteria of stock selection and also has a reverse split recently, that's something that can do something pretty exceptional. And then the second thing I would say is, where's the 200 moving average? And I'd say, it's that purple line right there is the 200 EMA, and this is the 200 SMA. So they're both a little close. I'd be like, I don't know if I love that. That might be a little bit of a problem. But I would look at the price. I'd say, well, it's at $11.75. What's the current price here? $8. So, realistically, it has a little bit of room before it's going to hit that level. And it kind of did hit that level right around there, I guess. So that's kind of my process. That's sort of the workflow that I have. I'm thinking, first, how closely does the stock meet my 5 criteria for stock selection? Second, what's the intraday chart? Third, what's the news? And fourth, what's the daily chart look like? And then if all of that checks out, then at that point, I'm pulling up my order entry window and I'm going to start looking for a position to take a trade. So yes, that's UPXI just as sort of an example, but I don't honestly think this one is going to give us a great opportunity tomorrow. I think it's probably sold off too much and is not going to work. So let's go ahead and look at a couple scans. So we'll look at our top after hours gainers. This just tells us the stocks that were making a big move Friday going into the close or going after hours. So PXDT makes this big move after hours, as you can see here, which is good. Um, Pops up, pulls back, so that could continue. Um, this stock float is 5.6 million shares. Volume, everything about it seems fine to me. I don't see any issue with this one. So, I would say that's probably okay. That's PXDT. It's just a question of, did it pop up too much and pull back too much, or is it going to rally at 4 a.m.? So at 4 a.m. it might come back up to 3 and then continue higher. So I would say that's one to keep an eye on. Then we're going to go to, what was the other one? HCTI up 59%, a little cheaper. Some people would probably like that. Once it gets a little bit, if it holds $1, it starts to get more interesting. INDO, which was up 30%. That price is a little better. I mean, look, if this goes from 6 back to 750, that's $1 a share. With 4,000 shares, that's practically the daily goal in one trade. So that's something I like in theory, but it's an energy stock. Houston Energy, this is also an energy stock. I don't love energy stocks in general. There's only a few exceptions where they've been worthy of trading, so not crazy about that, but we'll consider it. Um, so a couple stocks maybe to keep an eye on for Monday from Friday continuation. And then we can actually look at the continuation scanner. TVGN, this one still holding up pretty well. Needs to break over 310. Daily chart on it, it's kind of, oops, I just got rid of it. Well, that's fine. I'll just switch this to a daily. So daily chart is a little squished on this layout, but see how TVGN is holding above 3, holding above the 200? If that starts to pull away, that would be interesting. But you do have a divergence of decreasing volume, so that could be a little problem. Needs kind of a news catalyst, I think. CHSN, this was the Chinese pump and dump that got halted for a couple weeks. It's still holding up much better than I would expect, but if we recall, this is the one that pre-market made, or was it after hours? I can't remember. I think it was after hours. After hours had this really big move back here where it went all the way up to like $60 a share, but then came all the way back down. Again, that's stuff that's hard to trade because it halts back to back and it's not clean. Just seeing if there's anything else on here. A lot of these I'm familiar with because I've been trading them in the last couple weeks. Drug, daily chart. We'll just check this real quick. If it has news, that could work, but the price is higher. So I think a lot of people are just going to be like, nah, I don't want to trade that. It's just too risky. Spreads are too big. And, they're not wrong to feel that way. The ones that I typically do the best on are between, 5 and 10. That's a nice sweet spot where you can get $1 a share. Between $1 and $2, it's sometimes hard to get a full dollar a share. But between 5 and 10, you can get $1, $2 a share. Sometimes next thing you know, they're going up to 12, 13, 14, 15, or whatever, like we had on Friday with UPXI. So that's kind of the sweet spot, I think. So that's sort of what I'll be watching, that kind of price range, and we'll see if we if we get something that fits within that. So I would say game plan for tomorrow is because the market's been strong, I'll look at scans around 6:30, see if there's anything that's looking really good. Then I will sit down, load the broadcast, start streaming for members at Warrior Trading by 7 a.m. And we'll be watching to see which is the most obvious stock coming into 7 a.m., which is when most retail traders come online. By the way, there was some news out that New York Stock Exchange is going to extend trading hours from um, to a 22-hour day. So from 1:30 a.m. to like 11:30 p.m. I don't know why they don't just do 24 hours, 22 hours, it's whatever. But anyways, and so people are like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? And to me, it doesn't mean a lot. Number one, most retail brokers don't even allow trading before 7 a.m. anyways, even though currently the market does open at 4 a.m. The actual brokers have to allow it as well. So the market opens at 4 a.m., but most brokers don't allow trading before 7 a.m. And although we see some light volume moves between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., they're typically on lighter volume because most people can't trade them. So what are we going to see between 1:30 a.m. and 4 a.m.? More light volume stuff. Now you might have a stock, that pops up at 1:30 or 2 a.m. because it is an international company and that's when news comes out. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of volume behind those moves. So as a result, I don't think they'll be sustained, and I think they'll be harder to trade. Now you'll have some that end up, making a huge move on super light volume, which is risky for shorts. But, where do you get in as a long trader when it's popping on light volume? I think it's just going to be hard. So realistically, I think even if the market was 24 hours and you could trade the full 24 hours, I think we would still see windows with higher volume because that's when people recognize it's more liquid, it's easier to get in and out, and that's where more money is made. So, anyways, so tomorrow we'll sit down looking at coming into 7 a.m. what stocks are obvious. We'll see if we already have something that's up over 100%. We might. If we do, that's going to kind of point me in that direction. If we don't, then I'm just going to be sitting here waiting for fresh news at the top and bottom of the hours, anytime really between 7 a.m. and the opening bell at 9:30. And as soon as something hits my scanners that has news, I'll be looking at the sort of 5 criteria of that stock to see how closely it matches what I would say is A quality. And if it matches perfectly, I'm going to be jumping in aggressively, trying to capitalize on that first leg of the move, and then wait for the first pullback for the second trades going higher. That's kind of my game plan as I think about it going into this week ahead. The market feels still pretty hot. I could be wrong, but it was pretty hot on Friday. So I think that we're in a cycle here where stocks that have good headlines and where the price and float combination is right see big percentage moves. So I think that we're going to see more of it. Some of them may occur at odd times of the day, like we saw with MNPR, where it didn't start pulling away till like 10:30 in the morning. I might miss some of those, but the moves that happen between 7 and 10 a.m., I'll be here to try to capitalize on. So, when it comes to a very specific watch list of like these are the individual stocks I'm watching, have the couple that I mentioned that are continuation and movers from Friday after hours, but for the most part, we'll be looking at fresh stocks that are moving up. And I try to remind myself if one is already super extended, I'll just wait for the next one because there's always going to be another one around the corner. If it's not today, maybe it'll be tomorrow. So I want to manage my risk. I want to know how much I'm risking before I take the trade, but I'm willing to take more risk in a hotter market because this is the type of market where I'll typically get rewarded for it. So that's the game plan for the week ahead. If you want to join me, I'll put a link, also pinned at the top of the comments for a 2-week trial. So you do a 2-week trial at Warrior Trading. Use the same software that I use every single day, the scanners, the charts, the news feed. And you'll also have access to the chat room, my broadcast, and a selection of classes from my Warrior Pro curriculum. So I hope you check that out, and I'll see you guys live streaming tomorrow morning, just about 7 a.m. All right, thanks as always for tuning in. I'll remind you, as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so manage your risk, take it slow, and I'll see you here bright and early tomorrow morning.